So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're doing our December monthly debrief for December 2024. And that is our last debrief of the year, even though you're watching it in 2025. So this wraps up season 4 of these debriefs.
Crazy.
It really is, because it honestly feels like I don't know.
It's actually insane.
I don't like it.
Well, it just means we're getting old and...
But it feels like we've done like 2 seasons of these.
Sure.
Like, I feel like, oh yeah, we've done like 24 of these. We've done 40
Double
of these.
that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's something where it's like, huh, are you sure it's not the end of season 3? And you're like, nope, it's not.
Yep.
Okay.
We've had that discussion a couple of times.
Yeah, at the end of the year, though, definitely is like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's also really fascinating to me that we've done them and our topics have not repeated except for one time when we did solo war games.
Part 2.
Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
That's right. That's probably what I called it.
Yeah. And then tonight, we're going to kind of repeat, but with a totally different lean.
Yeah, I don't think this is a repeat.
I agree with that. It's on a topic we've covered, but in a totally different light.
Yes, and this is something that's been asked for a couple of times. So
yeah.
I'm hoping that this is helpful to those, although it's kind of niche. I think it's helpful to those who are looking for this kind of thing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, with that said, December, big month of games.
Yeah, we
did a bunch of gaming, which is what we had planned to do, and we did do a lot of gaming. Did we do all the gaming that we had planned? No. Did we still do an unconscionable amount of gaming? Yes.
For the 3rd or 4th time, we had called out ILAO.
Yep.
Embarrassingly, it's never happened.
I think this is going to be like the 4th or 5th we're going into.
We're getting it done, though.
Yeah.
We're doing it like next week.
Yes.
I don't care what
it's on the docket.
We're doing it next
rules. Week. We're going to be good to go. Anyway, so December. Lots of games. So let's just hit it off with the ones we don't have.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think they knew that this happened.
Well, we didn't do a video on it.
No, but we had talked about it in November if we're looking forward to that.
Yes.
But at the beginning of December-ish, Kevin Bertram, the owner of Fort Circle Games, flew into Indianapolis for the day from DC.
Kind of crazy.
You picked him up from the airport, and we played game, and then he flew home. That is quite literally what happened.
Yeah.
So we're
and literally, he dove into my car as I was streaking by, and then when I dropped him off, I slowed down to about 45 miles an hour, and he tumbled to the curb.
He did like a commando roll.
So, yeah, it was awesome.
We're playing a game, eating a sandwich like this.
It was very hectic.
It was
an incredibly long, but very rewarding and fun day.
Yes. So first off, huge thanks to Kevin for flying out to show us his games.
Very cool.
That was really awesome. He did not have to do that.
Yep.
And that was not an insignificant day for him.
I just wonder, did he have nothing to do? Like, literally, was his family out of town? Every friend he's ever known must have been out of town.
Is it one of those things of like, sure, Kevin, please go.
Yeah. Get out of the house for a day. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because he texted me at like 6:30 a.m. as he was getting on the plane. And then I happened to be up till 1 that night, and he texted me like at midnight saying he got back. So kind of insane.
Yeah, that's a big day. But it was awesome. So we started the day, he flew in, and we started the day with First Monday in October, which is a Euro-style game about the legacy of the Supreme Court. That's one we actually did do a video on for their crowdfunding.
Yeah.
That I think it's finished now.
I think it is, yeah. And it did very well. I think it
definitely
I don't know if it exceeded their expectations, but I do know it got a lot of press in the legal community, and I think a lot of lawyers that maybe aren't necessarily gamers ended up buying it, and hopefully that'll lead to some other people becoming gamers.
Which is great, right? That's the kind of thing that we want from a game, from a company that does historical and war games. You know, if you can reach a new audience with the historical games, who knows? If those people, some of them will be like, oh, sure, I'll play. I'll test out a war game at least. brings new people in.
And it was a very fun and slick game.
Very well done.
Definitely a Euro.
Oh, yeah.
You're moving your pieces kind of along different tracks, trying to move issues up or down and then score them by completing the cases.
And influencing them. It's very
Yeah.
Versailles. It's very
Yep.
those kinds of games. But it's very well done. Oh gosh, what's the designer's name?
Talia Rosen.
Talia, that's what it was.
Yeah,
She's done
she's
a
an attorney.
really, really good job with it. It's clearly gone through a lot of development
Yep.
and is very slick.
Well, it had so many really cool mechanics that really created, I thought, a very, very tense and impactful decision space.
Yes, agreed.
Like we literally, there were times you're like, okay, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do this. And you're watching everybody and you've got the master stroke. You've got the last placement and you're like, bam, it all came together, or wah, wah, it didn't.
Which is devastating.
Yeah, and then you kind of just have to do what you have to do. But I very much enjoyed it. Had a great time at that game.
Yeah, really, really good. There's a video on that. Definitely watch that.
Yeah.
After we did that, we played Halls of Montezuma, which is their upcoming war game. And so this uses the core Shores of Tripoli system,
Card-driven game.
but it's much more fleshed out. It's much more expanded.
It's also a little more sandboxy.
Yeah. There's
Meaning-
definitely much more.
One of my complaints has always been with Shores of Tripoli. While it's a fantastic game, I've got to do this, and this.
It is quite literally quite linear.
Yeah. But this one, while it had linear elements, I had a lot of freedom within, as the Americans, about how I was going to go about prosecuting.
Yeah, well,
that.
I think it does a better job of, you have an end goal that you must meet,
Yep.
and so there's some politicking you have to do with your card play.
Yep.
But really what that does is it detracts from how much you're prosecuting the war, but how you prosecute the war, as long as you end up taking Mexico City, is up to you.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of latitude in how you do that, and it's a much better game as a result.
Well, and I very much enjoyed it. Now, I was the Americans, which I think they're the offensive, right? The
Yes.
offensive
Yeah,
guys. Not offensive in that way, but they're on the offensive. Whereas I think the Mexican government is kind of a little more reactive, a little more defensive.
Yeah, defensive, counter-attacking.
Yeah.
And whilst in the end it did feel like I got spatchcocked, it was not that bad.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a lot of latitude, a lot of ability to do things.
Yeah.
And it was real tight there for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And then it'll kind of collapse at the end.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But
Well, I think it came down, frankly,
it was
down,
at the end game where
Yes.
you wanted. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I died in the early or mid game and it was like,
I just think there was a moment. Well, actually, it was interesting because you devastated my kind of initial armies.
yeah.
And Kevin was kind of sitting there going, oh, what's going to happen with this one?
And I knew when I rolled that I was like, oh, I've done something
Yeah, you
here.
did like 7 hits out of
because
10
you were
dice or something.
so that sets you back. And
Oh, yeah.
we played enough games where it's pretty easy to assess when something like that happens.
Yeah.
And I was like, the odds of me having done that were very low.
Mm-hmm.
And what that probably does to the game is it stalls what you are capable of doing. And that's exactly what happened. Eventually the machine got going, but it really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm much
Enjoyed it.
it was. They've done a really good job with that.
Well, that was one I know I backed on Kickstarter for us, and it should be out first quarter of
25.
25. Kevin can answer that, but I do think it's imminent.
Yeah, they did. They've done a really good job with that.
One of the things I want to explain, though, Kevin has been very transparent about kind of the business side of the games and what they are doing, which is very interesting. I don't know if you've ever read his posts. He has like a blog. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, he ultimately had to make some decisions with the production, not related to the cost, related to the playability and the compatibility with all the components. So they had to make kind of a different size box, and it just changed things.
Is that what slowed it down?
It's a deeper box than like the Votes for Women one, and it's slowed it down.
Right.
Now, has it slowed it down? The 12 months it's probably behind. I don't think Kevin would say that. But I hope that when it does come out, I think the final product will be well worth the wait.
I also have a lot of grace for
Sure.
Circle Games is Kevin, and his family helps him to package the games.
Yeah.
So like I have much less. I don't have a ton of issues with like shipping and delays anyway. I just think it's a fact of life.
It's going to come
just
when it
kinda
comes. Yeah.
But I think when it's a one-man operation like that, you know what? The
Cut
fact
him
that
some
he's even
slack.
doing anything,
Yeah.
good for him, because I couldn't do it.
Well, and the interesting thing about Kevin is he's lined up such great and interesting looking games that their next 4 or 5 games just sound amazing. I mean, very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the trajectory of Fort Circle looks like over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very
Should be
different
interesting.
companies for sure. After we played that, we played a prototype of Shakespeare's first Folio, which is a little card.
Tableau
Ish
building-ish.
Yeah, there's some
Worker
other
placement.
bits.
Very interesting game.
Yeah, and
I
it's
enjoyed
this,
it.
You know, little small format game. You're going to play it 3 or 4 player.
Yeah.
And it's doesn't take very long.
And it's about kind of publishing his plays, right?
Yeah.
Getting the ink and the paper and the different stuff and kind of...
You're doing that so that you can collect through your sets of pieces. You're trying to collect sets of plays.
Yeah.
So you're trying to collect like all of the tragedies.
Yeah.
And if you can have a bunch of tragedies,
You're going to score a bunch of points.
in a row numerically based on how the number they were printed in the actual folio, which is pretty cool. You get points. It's a set collecting type game of the plays.
And it also has some trick taking. Or
yes.
At the beginning, we're kind of warring off, for lack of a better word, and that was fun and interesting. It was a very interesting experience. I'm actually interested to see the final product on that one.
Yeah, well, so that game, not really a war game in any meaningful way, but we were kind of talking about it because it reminded me in a way of Biblios, which we then pulled off the shelf and just played because Kevin had never played it.
It's
and
a
this
30,
game
40-minute game.
Top notch.
It's so good.
This might be one of my favorite filler games.
It's so
ever.
good. And you want to know the truth? I bought that off a clearance rack at the Greenwood Game Preserve.
Yeah.
On a whim. I didn't have any money, but I said, you know what? And I got it for $25.
This is one of
so
the best
good.
whims ever. We've played this a lot. I love this little game. We played it with Kevin. This is one where you kind of divvying out the cards, and there's a whole game to that, and then you're using what you collected to bid on what's left. And Shakespeare's first folio is similar, where you've got this trick-taking phase where you're trying to win things, or if you don't win, you get extra resources, and then there's kind of a second phase where you're using those resources to buy things that you didn't win, or if you did win a whole bunch, you don't have as many resources, so you have to figure that out. And kind of that two-phase little filler game, this felt that way, and we played it, and I had a riot playing this game.
Oh, it's a great game. Yep. Fantastic game. I'll always play Biblios. So that was kind of our day with Kevin, those 4 games, which was amazing, because I think you arrived at my house, and we got about 10, and we played 4 games, and ate lunch.
And made one video.
And made a video before 6:30 when I had to take it down.
Yeah, and it was like...
That was crazy. That was crazy. So
yeah.
I would love to have Kevin back. So the welcome mat is always out.
He should come into town, not bring any of his games, and we
let's
just like play a
games.
big war game.
Yeah, it would be fun. We'll show him a real war game.
Yeah.
Like the enemy is at the gates.
Some with hexes.
Yeah. So then what else did we play? Thunder on the Mississippi.
Yes. So we played Thunder on the Mississippi, which is the most recent offering of the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War. GCACW. This is from MMP. This came out this year. This was a 24 game. Been really excited for it because I read a whole bunch about the Vicksburg campaign in my Shelby Foote Odyssey that I'm currently embarking upon.
I am rather split on this. I'm not necessarily saying it's a terrible game. I just don't get it.
I love this game.
I know, and it's something we don't necessarily agree on, and that's okay. I find it rote and boring having to roll those dice every single time during the activation. I just think it's weird.
And I fully understand why that is a school of thought. Because you are not alone in that.
And I think that as I'm doing that, it throws me off for the rest of the game. And that's my fault. I think that's my fault.
No. I think it's
the combat,
that's valid.
the maneuver, very cool. The supplies, interesting. I just can't get past that damn activation thing.
So yeah, big old game of that. That was a good time. There's a full review of this on the channel.
Yes.
Let me push that over there.
It's starting to grow on me ever so slightly.
We'll play more.
Yeah, man, I can't believe I'm saying that. Then we had Bill Simone, right?
Yes.
And our friend Mike Heckman from St. Louis. Bill's from somewhere in Ohio. We had them over, and Bill and Mike are somewhat of Next War aficionados.
Yeah, so this came about where Bill had floated the idea of, he'd be like, I'll come over and teach you this. I think. He offered it to us, right?
I think we asked him.
We asked him to do it because we knew he played it.
Yes. And I was like, I want to play this so bad.
And so he was like, absolutely, I'll come over, bring this. So he brought the tournament scenario of this. He taught it and we played it on a Friday night.
Yep.
But I think we were doing this and it was like, did you reach out to Mike? Or was... I think we invited him. I think
we talked about it. He saw it either on a video or some of our communication.
He was like, "Oh, can I come?"
He kind of asked if he could. Do you have another seat? And we're like, "Sure."
He plays a bunch of Next War as well.
Yeah.
Indeed, the two of them play at Next War Con at Historic KC.
Historic Con, yeah.
Yeah, whatever the name of that convention is. I'm very sorry.
Which we tried to go to during the pandemic, and it.
Well, we tried to go before the pandemic,
right.
And then the pandemic was like
canceled it, so we've never been back.
But yeah, we learnt this system, very big, very crunchy,
very involved,
with
a lot of different elements that I really very much enjoyed, from the commando raids to the air power, to the missile strikes. What else? I mean, there's just tons of that kind of stuff in there.
And the reality is this is a game of 1,000 simple systems. When you put it together, very complex.
Because it's
lots to consider.
It's one thing after another, and you've got to go through all of them.
But each individual thing you're doing, really not that complicated. But it's understanding the interplay between them that really gets your brain going of like, okay, I have to be able to like spot that guy with my like electronic warfare.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to spot him so that I can do a bombard on him, and so that I can
disrupt his headquarters.
There's so many
Yeah.
knock-on implications. That's what makes this game complex.
Yeah.
But it is very, very good.
Well, I will say I did not like the scenario.
Sure, that's fair.
Because it wasn't really a fair or even.
I'm not sure it's a particularly balanced.
Well, right, but it was interesting, and it taught us all the elements and the concepts, which is all we really wanted.
It had everything. That's why he tried to teach it to us too, because it has everything in it except for naval.
Yeah,
and you know, we played all the advanced rules. Very cool.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to parlaying that information into more games.
100%. So this we used as a substitute for our chosen December Shelf of Shame Dust-Off event game.
Yes.
Which was supposed to be a Time for Trumpets. So we subbed this one in for that one.
Because I think Poland came out in 2017.
Yeah.
And so and that was the one I was most excited for because I'm European.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that we got to have a taste of that as well.
But that was our 7th and final game that we were able to play in 2024 from that initial 12-game list.
Which, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, is more than I was expecting that we got done. And I'm pretty happy with, we played 7 absolute bangers.
I would have preferred that we got all of them, but to get 7 out of 12, that's pretty good.
I knew that 12 was unrealistic.
Oh, I agree.
So that was on the Friday night. On the Saturday, we played Red Dust Rebellion. So again, Bill and Mike stayed over, they overnighted here, and then they came over in the morning and we set up and played this. Start to finish, big old game of it.
It was very good.
Very, very, very good.
Chef's kiss on this one.
For reference, Next War Poland and Red Dust Rebellion have videos
coming
either
soon.
Out or coming very soon of just if only first impressions type things, but because we'll be doing more of both. But
well, we need to play this one again. It was really that good.
This is a very good coin game.
Yep.
It's got everything that you would want in a good coin game, and then some extras, and it does that without being burdensome and complex,
and without being focused on the historical side of a conflict. This was all made up.
They gave themselves freedom but they weren't stupid with it. Like, it would be so easy to make a really convoluted and kind of crazy
Overbloated.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
But like, I think they used restraint where they needed to.
Yeah.
And as such, this is a very good game.
The reality of this game, and I mentioned this during our first impressions, I was a bit concerned when Jay Carmichael, the designer, when this was announced. The only reason I was concerned was because it was a non-historical setting. I was a little concerned about that. Why? I don't know. But now after having played it, I realized that guy took all the Coin Series elements, jumbled them up, threw in his own stuff to represent the sci-fi stuff, and it made for a very engaging, very interesting, very dynamic 4-player interaction.
Yes.
Like, I was the corpse, you were the Earth Gov.
I was the Mars Gov.
You were the Mars Gov. We had to fight over for control of the Earth Gov. And that was fun.
And there was so much more interaction between us as allies than you get in some of the other allied coin games too. This is really well done. There's more of this coming on a channel. But
and the last thing I want to say, this is beautiful. It's like the colors, the map's gorgeous.
Very Mars.
Everything is just very cool. So, very much enjoyed that. I'm so glad I brought that up and we were able to get that played.
We then played 1793 Patriots and Traitors from Sound of Drums. And by played, I mean we attempted to play this.
Yeah.
This was a bit more of a struggle. So Sound of Drums is a European company. They put out some kind of big, they put out Ilau. They put out this. They've done some pretty big games out there. They partnered with Assault Games and are doing their productions of Assault Sicily, which is really good. The rules for this one were a bit of a struggle, which was tough, because I don't think this game should have been it shouldn't have been a struggle for what it is, I don't think.
I think overall, in my opinion, it's a very simplified card-driven game with some area control stuff and a little bit of combat, but it's just not clear. The rules aren't clear.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just a translation issue. I think that it is, because I read those rules. But this was frustrating.
Yes.
Because I think underneath this there's probably something that's really fun. But
Agreed.
it was very opaque. It was very difficult to glean everything from the rules, because the rules are both very dense. There's a lot of rules, and I don't think there needs to be. But also, the translation to English is not great.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Which is tough. This was a bitter pill to swallow.
Well, and there's two other things I want to point out that I think led to our frustration. There is a rule in the game: if any one of the enemy generals get into Paris, the game is over.
Yes.
There is a general, I think it was the Habsburgs, or...
It's the Austrians.
The Austrians. They are literally 2 spaces from Paris.
Yeah.
Right? So, you draw these cards, everybody draws their hand, and there are certain cards that are auto-play cards in the first turn. Somebody drew one of those, so we had to...
I drew one of them.
You had to play that, and ultimately that card forced that general to move 1 space.
And for reference, there's a mulligan rule at the beginning of the game where you don't do that. On my first turn, I did an action where I discarded some cards and drew some cards. One of those was, you must mandatory play, and it advances the Austrian general specifically.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's not great.
Yep. So we were all sitting there going, oh my gosh. And then I think Bill went.
And Bill didn't have any Napoleonic leaders that he could levy for our side.
None of us had any leaders that could get out on the board to muster the army.
Mike did, but he was going last.
Right. And then I think it got to me, and I had a card that I had to play that forced him to move.
And so...
The game was over.
Right.
Before the guy that could have done something, put a general on the table, was even able to go.
And...
That's frustrating.
It was extremely frustrating. So we then, kind of redid it and reset it up and then, played again. But so when I struggle with a game, it's almost always That's what we did, and I've read that rule book so many times, and it's like, I'm pretty sure that this is what this says. And I'm like 95% sure because there is a 5% margin of error with the translation and how it's laid out. It could be something that I've missed because of that. Mm-hmm. But like, we're like passing the rule book around. I'm like, that's what it says.
So ultimately, I think we went through about, what do you end up going, like 18 times in a game? We figured it out.
Yeah.
You would have like 18 turns, if I remember correctly, or something like that.
Yeah, because it's 18 rounds and you do one thing a round.
Yeah, and we played probably 6 or 7, and we saw that we weren't able to get anywhere, and we were still struggling with the rules, and we ultimately decided to give it up. So what I would say is I do think there's a fairly simplified card-driven game here, that we might not have got the best draws. And we shuffled those decks.
Yeah,
I shuffled them 3 or 4 times. We didn't get the right draws. It ended up killing us. That frustrated us. We carried that over into the rest of the game, and I think it was a, what's the word? It was like an echo chamber, and we were all getting frustrated.
So this is a game, though, that what I want to do is I want to sit down with the designer and have him teach me how to play.
Okay, so that's what I'm glad you said that. He has offered to do like a tabletop simulator or a tabletopia.
Okay.
If you are willing to sit down with him, I am willing to sit down. Obviously, he lives...
He's French.
Not here. But I would be more than willing. I can reach back out to him and say we would be interested if you would be interested.
I would.
Okay.
If only because I'm not sure my understanding of the rules is correct.
Great.
And I've read a lot of rule books in my life.
Yeah, and I want to give this game a shot because 1, it's beautiful. 2,
it's really well made.
The topic is really interesting. It's literally the French Revolution, like the end of the French Revolution.
I think it's the second year of the French Revolution. But it's the interesting part where there's the foreign armies and like there's all the Catholic Huguenot stuff that goes on the major board.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on. It just did not work well for us. So I will reach out to Jason. Jason St. Just is his name.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him. Maybe over the next month, we'll try to get something in.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to like this game. Our experience was not good enough for me to like it.
Yeah.
I want to give it another shot. We can do that with him online. And hopefully our experience will be better because he'll be able to teach us.
Yeah, because it felt like it was this is something that we've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah. I'm not stupid.
We've been doing this for nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
And invariably...
And been playing for years before that, just playing.
But like a game a week at least for 8 years, that's a lot of rules, that's a lot of games.
Yeah.
When a game doesn't feel right, Grant especially has a nose for it.
I do.
And this game, even I could tell, where I'm like,
there was something...
This doesn't feel right.
100% agree.
What
we were missing something.
Doing, I'm missing it. And but what we're missing, I could not glean from the rulebook.
Yep.
And that's what was really frustrating.
Agreed.
So I desperately want to be taught this correctly.
So I will reach out to Jason St. Just. We'll get something set up, and hopefully we will have a different experience.
Because if I can learn it and be correct, woo.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So next we moved on to Purple Haze with Mike and
yes, that's right,
Bill, and neither of them had played it.
No.
And I think that
Here's both my Jimi Hendrix record, Purple Haze, baby. This is Electric Ladyland.
Are you experienced, right?
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix is one of those. I love his music. Had he not died when he did, I wonder how big he would have become.
Meteoric.
I just have no because he 1 or 2 albums, I think.
Yeah,
maybe 2 or 3, and most everything he does is good. I just wonder where he would have went.
I genuinely think he would be one of the biggest artists ever.
It's a shame. It's very a shame. But Purple Haze from Phalanx, this game is awesome.
So, for reference, we played Red Dust Rebellion, 1793, and then we played this.
And the night before, we played Next War.
It was
Poland.
A hell of a weekend.
As Alexander mentioned, we know games. We've played a lot. We understand them. Doesn't mean we're good at them, but we understand what a game's trying to do, what it should be doing, and when there's something that is either not explained well, somewhat off. There have been many times where we've been playing a game, I'm like, dude, this is not right. And we're like, oh, let's look at this again. And 9 times out of 10, something was wrong.
Yeah, nine times out of 10, it's I misread the rules.
Right. Or the rule just isn't clear.
One time out of 10, the rules are not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Purple Haze, I mean, I think we played mission 5 or 6 because we've done a lot of these now.
Yeah. We've played 7 or 8, I think, right? 7?
I think we have 7, 8, and 9 left.
Okay.
But I think we've played 2/3 of this game now. I just love it.
It's so good.
It's really fun. This is one of those narrative style games. You have like not quite a choose your own adventure book, but it's like paragraphs and combat setups and things like that. It was just a riot. It was fun to play with 4 players.
Oh, it was
just to have more banter across the table.
And it was interesting. I think Bill really liked it. I'm not sure Mike really liked it.
I think Mike enjoyed the experience, but I don't think this is necessarily his style.
His style of game.
But I think us doing it all together he had a good time.
It's a blast. So, and we won the scenario that we played, which is always a good thing.
And by won, you mean
we didn't die.
We didn't die, and we got
some objectives.
We completed the objectives
mostly
decent.
There's always a qualifier in this game.
We still weren't allowed to go to town.
No.
We still weren't allowed to go
to... The CO was not that happy with us.
No.
Because I think we engaged somebody we weren't supposed to, but we had to. We had him in an ambush. We had to. We were supposed to not attack anybody.
No,
Wasn't it? I thought that's what it was.
It wasn't that we weren't supposed to attack him. It's that we killed them all, and we were supposed to let them get away
to follow them. But we got them all. We killed all 10 of the guys.
It was pretty funny. We were too good.
Well, when they didn't make their break roll, and there were only 2 or 3 of them left that were very wounded, I thought, oh crap. And sure enough, we just smoked them.
Eviscerated him. Got a lot of extra experience points, which was nice.
But we kind of self-destructed.
Mission, he was kind of like, you like didn't actually find out what you were supposed to. And it's like, our information was more nebulous than it was supposed to be, our intel. Yeah. But wonderful game, wonderful experience, fun to play it with more people.
Rather than torturing the guys and conversing with the guys and getting the proper information, we smoked them. But such a great game. I would play that at any time.
Really, really good.
We still had 2 other games we played, which was incredible.
So we played The Enemy is at the Gates, The Battle for Berlin 1985 from Compass Games.
And this is exactly what it sounds like, right?
Yep. This is
Cold War gone hot in the streets of Berlin.
And this is Volume 2 of their Modern War CSS. So CSS, company scale system. They've done a bunch of World War II ones.
Oh yeah, Volume 2.
We played Saipan.
What's Volume 1 in this?
It's a Fulda Gap one.
Okay.
That might actually be the name of it, now that I've said that out loud.
Actually, I think I can see the cover in my mind right now.
I know exactly. It's got a tank on it.
It's got a tank on it.
I'm pretty sure it's a Fulda Gap game.
Well, we need to figure out how to get a copy of that one because I very much enjoyed this.
Well, we'll look on Noble Knight Games, who are the sponsor of this video. And one of these days, I'm going to remember to put that much earlier in it. But yeah, this is company scale system. We've played this system before, but that was a long time ago. It was great to get back to it.
Yep.
Really fun to see it in a modern setting with modern weapons and in an extremely urban environment, totally different from the World War II island hopping in Saipan that we experienced.
Which was great as well.
Yeah, it's really neat that this system can do both of those things.
Yep.
I think some systems, it's a bit like, maybe they should.
Volume 1, Fulda Gap, the battle for blank. Something.
Yeah, probably Battle for the Gap or something. Do they have it on there? Oh.
The battle, whatever.
Look on Noble Knight. But yeah, this was joyous. It's actually still set up under here because I'm going to probably continue playing this on my own because this is not a short game by any stretch of the imagination.
Very long, very involved.
But
yes.
Very, very cool, very meaty. Just...
The Battle for the Center.
Battle for the Center.
And I don't know if it's on Noble Knight.
But either way, this is the big bad boy. I've been excited to play this since we got it earlier this year. Because I lived in Berlin for about 6 months. And we were fighting over the streets and the kebab shops that I've been to.
Sure. Well, we were really fighting over the kebab shops. That's what we were fighting over.
And
because we needed lunch.
So that was wonderful to kind of step back into that world.
They have at least 4 copies.
Okay, we will be buying one of those.
We need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Now, they're not cheap. but these are big games. This had 5 maps, 4 full maps.
I think, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit maps.
The one thing I very much enjoy about this system, the CSS, is you have all the support weapons, like your mortar teams and your anti-tank and your, what were some of the other, there's artillery.
Well, there's flamethrowers, there's all sorts.
But you have to move those around within your companies to be able to be used effectively. And it's very interesting having to make those decisions about when and where you deploy those weapons and those weapons teams.
It's one of the hallmarks because it's this kind of chip pull activation system and the combat's got a lot of layers to it, but it's moving and fighting and combat odds and rolling dice and things like that. The combat system is very interesting, but the details of with the support weapons are cool. I've got these flamethrower assets up here. They've cleared out that pillbox or that emplacement. I don't need them over there.
Yeah.
So you literally can warp them off the map. They sit on a card.
A little box.
The end of the next turn, so 2 hours later, they move to your available, and you deploy them elsewhere in your division. Yeah. And it's like you take the mortar platoon out of this company and you go and give it to these guys.
It's so cool.
And they support that company.
To me,
it's really neat.
It's a scale we have not played a whole lot.
Yeah.
But when we have played it, I've enjoyed it because it's decidedly tactical.
Very tactical.
But with those operational elements of making those big decisions about your assets. The other thing I liked about this one, you had recon choppers, you had frickin' buses.
Yeah, right. It's so tactical. You can send out your guys to roll a die to just round up the local buses
and move 40 spaces
that you can use for transport.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that sounds that's very deep and crunchy, and it kind of is. It's that kind of game, but it's so fun.
Well, and when you're on a map that's 4 huge maps and a little, moving 45 spaces on one of those stupid buses, it could be the difference between holding and getting obliterated.
Especially when it's you were the police. No offense to the police.
I had West German police.
They activate on one chit. You have to use your extremely expensive direct commands on them.
Some of them have horses.
But you put those guys in the bus. Normally they can only move 4. They got 4 movement points.
Now they can move 40 or whatever it is.
Yeah. So now they can literally drive across the map.
Yep. And plug a hole or hold a spot or stop in advance so that you can't reach an objective. The other thing, some of those guys had riot gear.
Yeah.
There's just one of them had a demolition charge.
That's
plunger.
what I really was excited about for this.
Yeah.
Is it is unconventional forces in a military setting.
Yeah,
Agreed. So many of your guys are the local police constabulary, SWAT teams, and riot police.
Well, isn't it just like the Volkssturm?
Yeah,
right. Isn't that the old dudes and the children?
That's more of the dregs and the conscripts.
Well, sure.
This isn't
quite that bad.
This is the INPD rolling out on the streets to support the National Guard because the Ruskies are coming.
Which could be bad,
right? But
depends.
But that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
You've never played a war game where you were fighting with the police.
Well, and this one also had an electricity component.
Yeah, right.
Now it didn't come into our scenario, but if you destroy certain assets on the board, the grid goes down, and then you don't have lights.
Right, but so you're we'll keep the lights on. Well, guess what? When you're fighting in the city in the urban hexes, and you've got all that electricity running around, fires break out very easily. Normally, fires are very difficult to ignite.
Yeah.
If you got the electricity on in the city, and you roll at 0, fires start.
And the other thing I would say about this, Antonio Pinar Pena is the map guy. I think he did this map as well.
Yeah, I think he does them all.
And I think he did CSS Saipan. This is a beautiful board.
Extremely clear.
When you are finally done with this, I want the 5 maps because I'm going to take pictures of them and do one of those beautiful boards of
and in the video we made, I don't know if I showed it, but I have my old street map of Berlin, and it's just as fun to look at it. It's the same level of detail. Almost.
Very cool.
It's so cool. But CSS is wonderful. We've played some of the old ones. We haven't played Guam for one day. But this
was a great one.
I also liked 3-inch box.
Oh yeah.
This 2-incher is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they've upped
come
the
a long
game.
way.
and I'm really happy with where we're at with that.
Let's find Holding the Gap, Battle for the Center.
Definitely, yeah. That'll go on the shelf of shame.
Yeah, yeah. The final game we played was Hispania.
A very different game from Enemy at the Gates. Very small, cooperative or solo little game. And this is about quelling the Hispanic barbarian revolts under the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
or the Roman Republic. It even starts that early.
Yeah, so this uses the same system as Tetrarchia, which was from 4 or 5 years ago. Then they did a second edition copy that we played. But it's just a very cool pandemic style of, I'm taking care of this fire and another fire's popping up. And I'm going to take care of that one and then this fire's going to pop up. And it's just kind of whack-a-mole all over the board. And you have some abilities and special things. And it's fun.
I really like this.
I enjoyed the heck out of it.
I really like Tetrarchia. I think I might like this more.
I did like this more. The siege was pretty cool.
Just the extra flavor of the special abilities and like the roads and the fleets that they added they just added a sprinkle a little bit extra dust in it without making it more complex. And it's a really tight game. They did a really good job with this.
But I will say this, Draco Ideas has some really, really solid, small, some abstract, that 1212.
Las Navas de Tolosa. Very abstract.
Tetrarchy is great. I played Scope Panzer this summer with my wife. They're just fun little games. So get this one. This is brand new off of Kickstarter. I think we have a video.
And Draco Ideas is a Spanish company.
They are, yep. And they do good games.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do.
It's really, really neat. And it's bilingual.
Yep.
They got the Spanish rules in there as well.
So the only other thing I played were my solo games. So I've got a couple solo games I played here. I'll just go over these really quick. Both are small, solitaire games. This one is the Sword of Orthodoxy from White Dog Games, and this one is the Viva Mexico, the Mexican Revolution. Very cool little games. Dave Kershaw designed this one. Ben Madison designed this one. States of Siege series, area movement, very similar to Irish Freedom, which I played a couple of years ago. I'm still working on these. I'm going to do videos and some other stuff on them, but they're great games. So this is the Byzantine Empire. This one's...
They published the...
I know. I don't know why they do that.
Do they always do that?
Yes. Not always, but... So here's this spine. This one's right. I don't know. They do that from time to time.
Interesting.
It's odd. So I'll put this on my shelf this way. But I love these games. I've been playing them, and I'll continue to play them this month.
Yeah, I'm playing a couple games of Memoir 44 online. I think I'm in 3 games of Unconditional Surrender currently. So I'm teaching a couple people to play that, and I've been playing those for the next 2 years because it's very slow because we're playing it asynchronously. But I do a couple turns a day, but it'll take a week for Poland to get defeated.
Sure.
It just is what it is.
Turns.
Yeah, and it should take 1 turn.
Yeah.
I don't want to diss on my opponents. I also am playing a good chunk of Washington's War right now on Rally of the Troops, having a good time with that game. I won my first game and then just lost 6 or 7 in a row, and I was like, am I just really bad at this game? And now I've won a couple, and I feel like I'm starting to figure out okay, I should be doing this or watch out for this kind of a thing. There are still some parts of it where I'm I have no idea what a good strategy to do is. This is specifically the opening move with the Siege of Boston, where I'm do I just leave it alone?
Well,
it's so weird.
The interesting thing about that game is it is not about the combat. It is about political control, moving around that board. You got to have 1 or 2 battles, but it is not ultimately the deciding factor of the game, right? Battles will turn certain areas in your favor, but...
Or you're doing the battle to get someone away and out of the area so they can't threaten you so you can do the political stuff.
But it's really about the political stuff.
You have to kind of... Yeah, it's really neat. I'm still wrestling with it. But fun, I've got fun stuff.
Time of Crisis, Andean Abyss, Votes for Women... I'm in a Rommel in the Desert.
How do you like that?
It's starting to grow on me.
Okay, I've played it twice and I just don't get it.
Well, and I'm not very good at it, but I'm starting to enjoy it.
Okay, I really struggle with like that game.
Well, it's kind of hard to play. I mean, I don't know. I played 2 games, got destroyed the first time. This time I'm getting destroyed, but I'm doing better.
Okay.
But I'm starting to get it, which is good.
And I'm in Hammer of the Scots, love Hammer of the Scots.
I can't stand Hammer of the Scots. I just get killed. I just get crushed. I don't know what I'm doing.
Sometimes it happens. Yeah, I've played that game.
I've tried
more than I care to admit.
But anyway, so what are we going to play in January?
So in January we are going to play 1943, 1945. We think the soft underbelly. This is from Dissimulated Sione.
Yeah, great little game.
We played this earlier today. It just says 1943, 1945 on the front. So,
but the Kickstarter campaign said the soft underbelly, 1943, 1945.
So try
I don't know what
searching for
happened.
that, because if you put 1943, 1945 into a search engine, good luck to you. But this is a little 2-play game, area move, kind of area control, and it's the Mediterranean and Italian campaign in World War II. Really slick, plays in an hour.
The Soft Underbelly Kickstarter. So this funded last August, and it came out like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
But it literally was called The Soft Underbelly, 43 to 45. So I don't know why he dropped the title. I really don't.
Hopefully,
but it's a great game.
The search engine optimization will lead you to be able to find this.
Maybe.
Because the game is really fun and it's really well made.
Yeah, it is very good.
This is a slick little production.
So we're going to play that.
Full review of that coming soon.
Yep.
We're also going to play...
We've got some big war games we're going to do.
Ilau, 1807 from Sound of Drums.
Haven't you said we're going to play that for
I
6
have
months
said
running?
this. I don't think it's running, because I think
4
there was a
months?
gap in between.
All right.
But it's probably, this is the 5th month that I'm going to claim that we're going to play this. It will get played
next week.
Like it's like, this is what we are doing. I will have it set up.
If when I come over, you have not looked at the rules, and the game's not at least in some form of setup, we're going upstairs and we're just going to play Call of Duty.
We will definitely have it set up. I don't know if it'll be the whole hog or if there's scenarios in this. Yeah, there's 5 scenarios. We'll probably do
big ass Napoleonics game, and we're going to play it.
This is designed by Uwe Valentin.
Yes,
but it's based on a system from Richard Berg, apparently.
Oh, okay.
I had heard that. I don't know if that's true.
Okay, and Battles of Napoleon leads you to believe that there will be future games in this system, right?
And I'll be honest, there are people who have played this and said it's really good. It says Volume 1, so there had better be. So I do have very high expectations for this. I'm looking forward to it.
It's beautiful too.
Oh, stunning. And also, again, it's very frigid, cold maps. It's freezing cold.
We've got special dice up there that are custom.
I already put them in here.
I stole out of it the Ilau battlefield map. That's the one that was on my wall.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, because it looks great, and I put it. I'm sorry.
No,
you can be mad at me.
No, I'm not mad.
You got your Cube for Me trade.
Yeah, custom dice, Cube for Me inserts in here. You can use our Cube for Me affiliate link down below. You get 5% off, and we get a cute little kickback.
Thank you. But we're playing this one, no doubt.
Yes.
If we don't play it, I quit. I'm not doing the blog anymore.
Okay.
That's my threat.
Immediately off the bat, you've probably seen the video, if not, it's coming very soon, about our Shelf of Shame dust-off. And already we're going to make a change to that.
Yeah.
So we're going to play France 1940. Partly because this
printing... Well, this is 2nd edition, printing.
Because this has...
sickle cut and dynamo.
Dynamo.
The board turns over and you can do either one of them.
And I think one of those is new. I think sickle cut is new.
I'm not sure. One of them is the main offensive. The other one is the cut towards the channel.
I feel like... Because France 40 came out ages ago.
Yeah.
And I think in my brain, it was just one of them. I don't know if that's true, but what are you going to do? And so this has kind of bumped its way onto the Shelf of Shame schedule.
We're going to play it.
But it's also, this particular edition was a 24 as well, I believe.
It is.
So
100%.
We're going to fudge it so it fills both of those things.
It's clipped and ready to go.
And it's one of those 40x games from GMT and Mark
I love that
Simonich.
series.
They're very good, and the French landscape will be one that shows off the Zarkbon system. I'm looking forward to playing with that in that realm.
So we're going to do that. I'm going to leave this with you. And then we're also going to play Traces of Hubris, which is the old Red Box series, a Victory Blank series.
Traces of War.
This is called the Fierce Fight series now, I think. Traces of War was the first one. We love that one. Another East Front game. This one's Traces of Hubris, which is also an East Front game. But we're going to play this one. And this one doesn't need clipping. It's
pre-rounded.
Yep.
And it's a
beautiful.
big 2-mapper.
Yep.
Perfect. And it all fits in this.
Oh, it's cute. And I love how it's in a small box.
Oh, cute,
and the
cute
boards
game.
are incredible.
Yeah, these are like linen finished. I remember these from the other one. But they're like still paper.
Yep, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
And we know the rules. We know the system.
Kind of hate the wooden dice.
I don't like the wooden dice.
Kind of hate that.
But this is VUCA Simulations. VUCA makes really good games. Not only good playable games, absolutely bangers in the production.
But yeah, I love that they have kind of teamed up with Tetsuya Nakamura to keep producing his games, because we've played a couple of those Red Box ones, really, really fun, and them picking it up, getting more of them. These are a little bit bigger than some of the other ones.
Yep.
They just have a bit more going on, and I just, they're really, really enjoyable.
So we're going to have a good month. Then we're also doing another event.
That's right.
Where we're having Russ Whetley from Cardboard Conflicts. And I think our friend Jacob Garris, also from...
Yeah, I think Jacob's coming down. So
Lafayette.
we're going to play Total War Rome, the board game. And this
not
is...
the IP, or not the video game, but the IP of the video game.
Yes, that's right. At first it was a historical empire, then it was a video game, and now it's a board game.
Yes.
It's the board game equivalent of moving back in with your mother. This is from CCC Games, which is a new company. This was originally put out by PSC Games, Plastic Soldier Company Games, and I believe that they, I don't know, but this is all assumptions. I'm pretty sure they just like separated their board game division and like formed their own LLC,
From
like
their
their own
miniature.
company, just to separate it from the miniatures.
I just have to show. Sorry, while you're.
But this is a big
talking.
Kickstarter that we did at least, gosh, I think 3 years ago. Because I
mean,
saw a prototype of this.
Look at the plastic miniatures and this cool custom, like.
That you could probably hold upside down without holding the lid.
Yep, 100%.
That's a nice tray.
Beautiful custom dice.
Ton of cards.
Look at that.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for this.
Little triremes, little senators.
We
forts,
have the
walls.
metal coins and the little
Just
resin
amazing.
buildings.
So this plays up to
Plays 4.
4.
But
So
I've
we're
been
gonna.
looking forward to this since
Oh yeah.
I went, like, we backed this before I went to UK Games Expo. They had it on display there. They didn't have it available, but... So I'm extremely excited to play this.
Well, and it's just a big Ameritrash style historical game.
Yes.
Very excited.
Like, dudes on a map.
There's
kind
There's even an expansion over there that has like a tactical board with tactics cards. I would actually like to play it with that. I know you said that's going to make it longer, but...
Yeah, I think I want to play it without, and then with, so I could compare the two.
But,
yeah, because it's... We do a fight, okay, set up the board, and then everyone else is not doing anything, and I'm like, I don't know.
3 hours.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big game. We're doing this on a Saturday. And then, with the same two guys, we're going to play our first game of Divine Right.
Yes, so
we're from Pungo Games, a.k.a. Worthington Games, a.k.a. Worthington Publishing, a.k.a. Mike and Grant Wiley.
Yes. So, Pungo Games, if you don't know, it's Worthington's...
board game.
Yeah, board game division. So they have their war games under Worthington and their board games, although I think this is a war game.
It's a war game.
And originally I was like, oh, it's their little like Euro game. And then like, this is not a Euro game.
No.
This is an old Hex Encounter war game that a lot of you have already played, and we know that.
Yep.
They did a reprint of it. They kept the lovely vintage artwork.
Yep.
It reminds me of...
Looks like it's pulled right out of the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just like
There's the board.
zhuzhed up the resolution.
I'm not going to open it fully, but I actually really like the board.
I
think it looks cute.
It's that great style.
Yep.
It reminds me of
Very nostalgic.
a lot of those old boards.
I mean, look at that.
Like I've got like old Iron Crown Enterprises,
Yep.
stuff of Lord of the Rings that's in that style.
Yep.
Do you remember the Steve Jackson box games with the little video cassettes?
Yep.
And that one we played with the Necromancers?
Yep. It's similar to that.
The vibe and the look of it reminds me of those styles.
This reminds me of Titan, the original Titan game that I've played with my father and brother-in-laws, your father-in-law and brother-in-laws, dozens of times. I own a new edition, so it's not quite as cool.
And I've only ever played the cool new one.
Yeah, but it looks like this, the original.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
I love that they preserved that,
Agreed.
but then have put out a really nice new pre-rounded edition, and it's just. I think a lot of people are going to get back into some nostalgia that they had with a product that doesn't fall apart when you sneeze on it.
Well, and we're going to have a hell of a day. We're going to start like at 9 a.m. and I don't expect us to be done till 6 or 7. So it's going to be a hell of a day. I'm also going to play these two games again. You've got
I do.
Fields of Fire. This is also a new game off of Kickstarter that I'm going to try, a solo tactical campaign game called Forward Defense 85. It's a Cold War gone hot game from a guy named Ben Rawlings. Is that his name? Dang it. Now I'm getting it wrong. But it's Strategist Den Games. Remember they did an ad with us?
I did.
I want to show you one thing. I've made the copies of the tracker so that I can...
Ooh, it has 4 D20s in it.
Oh, yeah. Everything's a D20.
Now that's a game I'm interested in.
So this is the map. They are little individual tiles.
And you just put them together?
A scenario is going to tell you, use this, this, and this.
Nice.
And you're going to create your own board.
That's small. That's a small format,
and then
too.
Here's your counters, right? I just think this is so cool.
And it's tanks.
Yep. So it's a lot of tanks, a lot of vehicles. Command is a huge part. Command and control is a huge part of the design. But it's a solitaire game. So I'm going to give it a try. I backed it on Kickstarter.
Well, that's very interesting.
And I got the printed version because I didn't want to have to do the, build your own.
And I think based on the pieces in there, that's something it looks like I would recommend too.
And this was the printed version. I think you could have done a print and play version. I paid like $25 more and got
Yeah,
this.
that's probably worth it though.
And I'm excited about it. So I'm going to try it. That's one game that I'm going to play this month and hopefully get out.
So I'm going to play, apropos of almost nothing, Fields of Fire. I was playing around on my shelf with it. This is my Fields of Fire Volume 1. I keep it in this 3-inch box because the 2-inch box it comes in is
not enough.
a joke.
Yeah.
Please fix that. I know they are fixing it.
Well, the deluxe edition I think is coming out soon. I want to say like in the next month or two.
And so I'm like priming myself to kind of jump back into that.
Can we please do a favor for me? Can you do a favor? Can we just play this together one time?
Sure.
We don't even need to do a huge mission. I just want to experience it.
Here's what we'll do. We'll do that with the new edition.
Sure, that's what I mean.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's just try it.
But I kind of just want to jump back in because I've had this Battle of the Bulge campaign that they released staring at me, and I was just looking at my games on the shelf, and I'm like, I love this game, and I just need to get back to it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to set it up, and I'm going to play at least one of these from this.
How come this doesn't fit in there?
Because it's an expansion. None of it actually fits.
That's so annoying.
Like I could, because that's the deck of action cards there. They're not even in
Sure.
a box, and like
Sure.
I still cut.
Well, I think you need to. Maybe if we play it together, let's record it. I think people would like that.
I would like to play it first.
Okay.
Because I just want to get back into
how it works
and navigate the new rule book because they've made a lot of changes to make it much more playable. And
well, please I honestly want to play one scenario.
We definitely will. Because
just one.
You will dig it.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Not for the faint of heart.
This is like a 60-page rule book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I see a rule book that's over about 20 or 25 pages, I start sweating.
And it's only that long because it gives you so much freedom and there's so much detail in it. The reality is, especially in Volume 1, and I think Volume 1's my favorite, because a lot of the missions in that book have a lot of freedom to them. Okay. I think the chains are on in a lot of the campaigns where they try to be too historical.
Got it.
I like the freedom of the map setup in Volume 1 a lot. I think it's something I really enjoy about it. But like, you set up your map and it's moving across cards and it's like, okay, what happens here? There's enemy. You flip it over. It gives you a letter. You cross-reference in a chart. That tells you what's there. You put that stuff out. Everyone opens fire. And it's just resolving all these things. And you have, they're like, you draw the cards. It's a closed system. It feels like Combat Commander from that standpoint of rolling those cards. It just...
So you pull a bunch of bad rolls, some good rolls are going to come. Hopefully.
Yes and no, because you use the cards for everything. And so you're like, what's a good card look like? You just don't know. But in this one, your guys get like blown to hell and they become litters, and you're like
having to drag them around.
Oh no! Like your whole mission parameter changes because you're like, I gotta pull those guys back, otherwise we're gonna lose. Like it does so much to you. It's so good. But yeah, it's very complex.
So let's play that together.
We'll definitely.
That's another goal this year.
Right.
So don't we have a sponsor that we wanted to give a little more time to? We already mentioned them, but
yeah.
We need to go ahead.
I think that's everything that we
are going to play and have played.
And are going to play.
Another banger of a month.
That's
literally like 6 games.
Yes.
That's crazy. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because we've already done 1, and today's January the 3rd.
And we've got 2 already booked.
Yep. So
this one's
3,
next week.
And then we got 3 weeks to do those. We're golden.
3 weeks to do 2 games.
We're golden. We're golden.
I feel pretty good about it.
I feel great about it. Well, we have 3 weeks to do 3 games, remember. Traces of Hubris, France 40, and Ilau.
Well, but Ilau's next week.
Okay, sure. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Sure.
I will not... I'm going to go play Call of Duty if you don't.
Oh, no.
We are not prepared to play it.
We will be prepared to play
I will give up my blogging and YouTube channel card.
Not worried about that. So, yes, what we will do now is we will have a spot from our sponsor, Noble Knight Games.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more, going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at, complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
I just love their commercials.
What a great commercial it was,
so
too. They're just so novel and have a very high production value, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Noble Knight Games, like you said, he was shopping on there earlier in the video.
Yeah.
Like that's
just what you get here.
What we use them for as well, is when there's a game that we don't have, or maybe we missed the boat on, or it's like, hey, we played one in a series, ooh, we got to go back and get more.
Well, that's what Modern War Volume 1, The Folded Gap, The Battle for the Center. We're going to get it.
Yeah, like, we'll press the big red button once we're done with this video.
Because I love that game. It was amazing.
Yeah. And
it was amazing.
And it's a Cold War Gone Hunt video, which we haven't played a lot of.
Nope.
And so, because honestly, it's not that interesting to me.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea.
But playing in my old stomping ground is what was like, I'm in. And then the gameplay was so good where I'm like, yes, let's do more.
Yep.
So they got me. They
hooked us.
It worked. If you can sell me on any Berlin game, genuinely, I will buy it.
Well, I do have that Fall of Berlin from Ted Racer and Compass Games that we wanted to play this last year, but never got around to it.
We'll have to.
We'll get there.
We'll have to get
someday.
There. But yeah, that's Noble Knight Games are a wonderful resource for us, and I hope they are for you as well. And we're very grateful for their sponsorship. They help keep the lights on, help keep us going. Any crowdfunding or Kickstarters or anything like that going on?
There really was only a couple. So Warfighter with Dan Verson Games has like a battle pack. They have 3 or 4 battle packs for each of the World War II, modern, and I can't remember the other one. I'm drawing a blank. But it only has 4 or 5 days left, so if you're interested, go ahead and pick up some new expansions.
But it's like an expansion.
Yeah, there's no base to it. It's just the battle packs.
Okay.
So that's one that I'm aware of. I do know there's some other ones coming out this month, but I'm not sure I'm able to spill the beans on those. But I do think we're going to have 2 or 3 new Kickstarters that should be out by the end of January. and then I'll highlight them in my February War Game Watch.
So on to the main topic of discussion for today. Rome Total War was a Kickstarter that fulfilled.
Yes.
This month. So back in December. So
I did just get also, which I'm excited about, I sent you the pictures, Tactics from Draco Ideas. What the hell is that called? France and blankety blank 2GM Tactics. Small scale tactical World War II war game. Yeah, I text you all the time, but you're playing other.
You sent me this.
No, scroll up, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's like last week.
Oh, that one
right there. What's that? There
this
you go.
is the first time I'm seeing this.
There you go. Oh, sure.
2GM Total War.
So it's France and it's Total War, but look at those cool custom 10-sided dice.
I love a custom 10-sider.
And I bought like 3 packs so I can give one to you.
And you got the
little cool...
The big tower.
Yep, it's a flak tower. German flak. It's pretty cool. It's small and it's flimsy, but it's cool. So that's a game I would like to play with you because I've got the base game that they gave us, and now I backed that Kickstarter.
Is it a dice? Is it a dice game?
It has dice, yep.
Because that's small, right?
It is. That's a very small box.
But is it a card game or is it a dice game?
It's more card games.
Okay.
With dice. With combat dice. I sent that to you like a week ago.
Can we spill the beans on the new Armageddon War stuff? Surely.
Yeah, why not? They had a video out on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their video.
Oh, okay.
I just don't know when they're planning on doing something.
I genuinely don't care when they're doing it.
But they
all I
need to do it
care is
soon.
that they're doing
Yeah.
it. Because if you haven't played Armageddon War from Flying Pig Games, crawl out from under that rock that you live under and go and get it.
So
it
good.
is a wonderful game.
Yep.
It's
a platoon level tactical game. That one was set in modern, like future war.
Yeah, it's like near future.
So good with a rolling activation system.
And the way that the flagged status markers are just for ease of use.
You can read them. Yep.
And the game has so many scenarios in it. It does like...
We played like 3 of them.
Yeah, and like one of them is like small scale, like smoking out IEDs and like
was
a
big tank
little
battle.
ambush. One of them's like a massive pitched battle.
Yep.
Like,
And then one we guided a limousine with a VIP.
Yeah,
And one of us was the insurgent.
and had to like ambush
Yeah,
him
that was,
and get
that was incredible.
and there's at least one built-in solo one where there's like
Yeah.
robo dogs guarding a camp and you
Yeah.
have to go and like take like
Great game.
the game does so much, but the systems within it are so cool.
Yep.
It makes the game feel really unlike a lot of other games that we played. That being said, they have announced and are putting out one called Rising Dragon, and this is platoon level combat in the invasion of Taiwan. So it's going to be Chinese forces landing in Taiwan, I presume supported by the US, but who knows. But that system...
The Chinese supported by the U.S. or the Taiwanese?
Who knows how far in the future it is? We'll never know. But it's...
And Greg Porter is the designer.
And
of that
he's
one.
a genius for it.
Yeah, he's good.
He did a really good job with Armageddon War to the point at which I would back a game in that series sight unseen.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't tell me the title and you said, we're making another Armageddon War, I would be like, yes. I don't care what it is because the mechanics in the system are so good.
Yeah.
And Armageddon War was there, and then it went out of stock, and they didn't reprint it for a long time. Then they finally did.
Yep.
I think it's gone again.
Yeah.
But it's that good.
So this video, the picture I took was from a video with Denver Walker, Mark's daughter. I
Yeah.
don't know if her name's Walker. It's
It
Denver.
used to be.
She's married. So sorry, Denver. But that's a full interview with Greg Porter. So if you're really interested, just search it on YouTube and you'll find it.
Yeah, but Flying Pig Games, their production value is off the charts as well.
Yeah.
And
We still need to play their 85.
yeah, we do. That's
one we got to get.
That's before the
this
end of the
year.
year. But I just.
Yeah,
I
very
love that
exciting.
system. Please go.
Agreed.
Back there. Anyway, on to the main topic of today's
Debrief video.
That's what we're doing.
Our topic.
So today's topic was suggested by Larry Jex. Sorry, I just totally doxed you on the internet. Maybe I'll bleep that out. Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, bleep that out.
Larry's a really good dude. I actually played Fire and Lake with him at WBC 2 years ago.
Okay.
Whilst you were ill, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't get a meeting.
But it was
Damn, that was 2 years ago. That's crazy.
2 WBCs ago.
That
It
was
wasn't.
crazy.
It was a year and a half ago. But he's a really, really good dude. He's one of our patrons. If you want to be able to suggest topics, we pick from the suggestions of our patrons typically. I make
Not
a post
always,
every
but-
week. Yeah, every month. But this is one of those instances.
And I think we have talked about doing a patron-only giveaway.
That's correct.
Are we going to give our other copy of Rome Total War?
Amongst other things, I think so, yes.
Okay. So you will have to be a patron. So if you're interested in that, I think we're going to try to do that at the end of the month or 1st of February.
Yeah, we'll do that in such a way where you can get it for Valentine's when you're all alone.
Yeah, and we'll ship it free of charge and just as a way to say thank you.
Yes.
You like how I did that?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I do.
We've talked about that for like 2
Now I'm
months.
committed to it, so I actually
we're
have
not
to do
committed.
it.
It's on video. You can bleep that out.
That's right. This
Blame
whole
that on me.
section's getting cut.
Yeah, cut.
None of it's staying in.
There was another game we had talked about, but I don't remember what game that was.
I think it was Fire in the Lake.
Because we have another copy.
Or maybe it was 18XX or something. 18
I don't
India.
remember.
I've got
we
a
have a
few
couple
games.
that-
Maybe it'll end up being a couple games
Yeah.
that we can send to a couple people.
Yeah.
Either way, if you're one of our $5 or above patrons, you can suggest topics, and we pick from them. This one's from Larry. Thank you so much. Today we're going to talk about how to teach a coin game, which is a pretty niche topic. I realize that, but this is a question. The regularity of which we get asked is surprising. It comes up a lot, and
Yeah.
part of that is because we've played a lot of coin games. I think we are ambassadors for the coin series. We talk about it a lot.
Yep.
And we have run official coin teach and play events
Many of
for
them.
3 years in a row, I think now.
Yep.
At Buckeye Game Fest. I've taught a lot of people online on Rally the Troops. And, whenever we go to conventions, even at WBC, or just having people over, invariably we're the ones teaching them.
Yep.
That's almost always the case.
Well, and I want to make something clear. I don't know that we're good at the system, but I think we do understand the system.
Yes.
We have played enough of the volumes enough times to understand what they are trying to do, how best to digest them, learn them. We play a ton on Rally the Troops. I love coin. So I think that love, for me, has made me have a passion for it. And I've done a lot of thinking and thought-provoking stuff on it, trying to understand how best to help others enjoy it. Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, I just don't like it. Well, I don't think you're playing it right. I don't think you're playing it with multiplayer, right? That would be my number one. Number two is understand what you're trying to do. Don't just pull the levers without understanding where those levers lead to.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
And there's
But-
also some more, so there's even just fundamental things, right? So I think the coin series fairly regularly is touted as being a potential kind of gateway war game,
Yes.
right? It's areas, it's wooden pieces, it doesn't look like the Russian campaign,
And there's nothing wrong with the Russian campaign.
No.
I love that game.
But the Russian campaign scares people off.
Yes.
A lot of people who are not war gamers will see that and be like,
And run for the hills.
yeah, like, oof.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Liberty or Death set on the table, it looks stunning, it's attractive, and it's like areas and pieces, which is a much more common parlance to the broader board gaming world.
Yep.
So, that translates into coin more broadly.
Yeah.
It's less scary.
It's just more approachable.
Definitely.
Because of the pieces and because of the colors and because of the Eurocentric elements. Because I'm going to be honest, most hex encounter war games are not overly complex. They have some complex systems, but the majority of them are just move, fight, move, right?
Yeah.
It's not overly complex.
And honestly, there's a lot of them that are that simple.
Yeah. But coin, I think, has about 7 different layers that really lead, or should lead, to a very different dynamic than just a 2-player hex encounter war game. That's why they're chosen around the topics that they are chosen around.
Agreed.
They try to choose, or have tried to choose, historical settings where somehow insurgents are involved. Somehow a big government is involved. Somehow there's some fringe people that are involved, like warlords or the cartels, and then there's
the Church of the Reclaimer.
yeah, which is very cool in Red Dust Rebellion. But they try to center it around that. So one of my first comments to everyone that ventures into a coin game is I do think you need to at least know something about the history to fully grok the different factions.
And if you don't,
It's okay.
It's okay, but if you do, that's better.
It's going to help.
So, number one thing is people ask, which is the best one to teach? And the reality is, some are more simple than others, but the best one to teach is the one that the players are most interested in.
Yeah.
And usually that's because they might have a knowledge of it. Hey, these guys like Vietnam. Honestly, you can start with Fire in the Lake.
You can.
It's big, it's got a lot to it, but if people like the theme, they will be more invested in it.
Yep.
If people love Vietnam and you're trying to teach them Colonial Twilight, they might switch off.
Yeah.
And you're fighting an uphill battle, right? If people have seen Narcos, you're like, cool, let's
Andy
play
and Abyss.
Andy and Abyss. We're going to put on the Narcos soundtrack, and you are going to see events, you are going to see people, and you are going to see factions that you know in this game.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I went to Cuba on vacation because I'm not a US citizen. Play Cuba Libre, right? You went on vacation there. Look, do you remember this place? Like,
I thought U.S. citizens could go to Cuba now.
I think they kind of can now if they get special permissions. I still
Okay.
think it's kind of sticky, though.
I thought you could now, but maybe I'm wrong. I've never been.
No,
so
I also
I've been to
have not
Miami.
been, but a lot of people that I went to school with have been because it was
Okay.
super wasn't illegal.
Right,
for
right,
them.
right.
But anyway,
Yeah, for a long time it was illegal, right?
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to, as a United States citizen, smoke their cigars or go there or do any of that.
everything was embargoed. But pick the one that your group is most interested
Yeah.
in. That's the reality.
If you like Roman history, there's Falling Sky. If you like, the American Revolutionary War, there's Liberty or Death. If you like the Vietnam War, Fire in the Lake. There's really one that covers a lot of these types of wars that have been kind of modern wars, except for the Roman and the Pendragon.
But many of them were modern-ish,
Yep.
right? That's a big focus on it. And honestly, Red Dust Rebellion, sci-fi. You
No
can
history
hook
at all.
a lot of people with sci-fi.
Yep.
So theme-wise is honestly a decent place to start.
Go with the theme
because
that you enjoy.
that theme will carry a lot of people.
Yep.
I would also say max out your player count.
Yep.
Trying to learn Fire in the Lake with 2 players, very different from trying to learn it with 4 players.
Yep.
So, and
Because when you do it with 2 players, you're literally playing 2 of the kind of aligned factions, but you lose a lot of the interplay. You lose a lot of the interfactional dynamics. Like when I'm playing the US and the Arvin, there's really no tension because I control them both and I'm going to do what I believe is best for
yes.
the team. But when you're playing the Arvin and I'm playing the US, and we're playing a full 4-player game,
Very different.
you're trying to hose me and just take my money, and I'm trying to
Not
it's
avoid
just
that. That's just it, right? It is a less dynamic game with less players, and also you're literally doing twice as much learning.
yeah,
So,
because
like-
you're learning 4 factions.
Max out your players. You just have to learn less.
Yeah.
Okay. That also helps. So whenever we play,
It's less daunting.
when we do these teach and plays, if I've got 4 players, brilliant. If I've got 3 players, I'm going to sit in that 4th seat so that it doesn't burden the other players anymore.
Yeah.
I will do everything I can to max out those
Make it
seats.
easy.
Just make it as easy as it can be for these players.
Yeah.
So
So those are our first 2 points, right?
yes.
Pick a historical topic that you enjoy or have interest in, or that your group does. Number 2 is try to do the max players because you'll get the full coin experience and it will be less rules burden, less difficulty in managing 2 or 4 factions. It's just a better experience.
Yeah, and especially if you're all learning, when you all learn together, it's so much easier to do that collaboratively, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's like, oh, what about this one rule? And the three of you forgot, but one of you didn't. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, there's less chance of you messing it up. When there's just two of us and we both forget a rule, if there's four of you, it's twice as likely you won't forget it.
Yep.
So like it just is more practical as well from an educational standpoint too. So when we've been doing the teach and play events, we have taught Cuba Libre, Andean Abyss,
Liberty or Death.
Liberty or Death.
What was the other one we taught? We did Fire in the Lake last time because I had a little more advanced.
Did you do a Fire in the Lake?
I did
Okay.
Fire in the Lake.
So it's feasible. But those are the ones that we had chosen. And you know, we did Cuba Libre for a couple of years running, Andean Abyss because it was the first one. Did you have to? No, that was okay. But those, you know, the first couple coins, Cuba Libre and Andean Abyss, even a Distant Plane, those are always good ones to start with as well because they're the earlier ones in the system. They have less chrome on them. Mm-hmm. The rules is a little bit more straightforward, and
I also think they're more similar than some of the later versions.
Yeah, the factions across these
operate.
A lot of them share commonality.
Yeah, the government in all three of these is generally the same.
The hardcore insurgent factions.
Yep.
What is it? July
26.
26 July, FARC, and Taliban.
Taliban, yep.
All function very similarly, within reason. You know, there's a lot of commonality to these, and they're not, I don't want to say burdened, but they don't have all the additional maybe dice rolling or economic elements to them, or extra, you know, passive, non-violent faction stuff that's new stuff. So these are very straightforward ones. It's also
along those same lines, though. You've got the warlords, right? You've got the cartels, and you've got the
syndicate.
Those also function very similar. They're more economic.
Yeah.
They are more concerned about profits and turning profit into victory points, you know, with the casinos, with the drugs. And I like how in these first 3 or 4 volumes, they do have a lot of that commonality.
Yes.
Because they are going to help you go from this one to this one to this one and make your way up the ladder.
So yeah, if you're theme agnostic, these are 3 early ones really easy to dive into.
These are some of my favorite. I love
I'm inclined to agree as well.
I love A Distant Plane to this day. I played it this past summer, had a blast with it. It's amazing. Andean Abyss, we play a ton because it's on Rally the Troops. You've logged well over 100 games, and I'm probably getting close.
I'm over 150.
Yeah, so I'm probably getting close to 100. Cuba Libre, we've played probably a dozen times between the two of us, and then we've taught it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But these, I think, are kind of the bread and butter. These are ones that I think people should kind of start with and then branch out. Although we started with Liberty or Death, so it's doable.
Yeah, it's absolutely
doable. Then our next one was Fire in the Lake, and then ADP.
Yeah,
so,
we did it all backwards.
We did.
Okay, so I have
we
my
learned it.
Cute little cube for me insert here. Once again, there's a link down below.
I have those in my Fire in the Lake, which is at home.
But I'm going to pull out my cards here, which you've done the same thing.
Yep.
So what we'll talk about is actually sitting down and teaching the game. Because now you've picked a game, you've got a group together. How do I teach a game? So I am extremely proficient in coin games. And by that I mean, I know all the rules. I know what a coin game should look like.
La-di-da.
I've played an embarrassing amount of coin.
Me too.
So,
this segment brought to us by Mountain Dew and Big Gulp.
Big Gulp.
I'm sorry, I just have to take it.
No, that's okay. So the first few things that I will do is kind of hand out the play aid cards.
Yep.
You just give everyone their play aid, and you just open it to the faction that they are doing, and you say, this is what you are concerned with. You read this to yourself whilst I set the board up.
Yeah.
Okay. There's also these 2 play aids. Typically the game has 2, and this has some of the event stuff and typically the propaganda around in it. And it's like, I will say, this exists. We will talk about this in a second.
Yeah.
And just kind of set it aside. And so whilst the board's being set up, I'm a person where typically coin games don't take very long to set up. So I like to deploy the pieces and explain what they are as I'm deploying them onto the board. So this is where I will, we're putting out the cylinders, like the insurgent pieces. Hey, they're dual-sided. This is the exposed side. This is the underground side. The underground side is hidden.
That can't kill them.
They can't do stuff to you typically, and makes you powerful. When you reveal yourself, you do stuff. When I'm putting them out on the board, I'll just say something real simple like that. Done.
Yeah.
When you're putting the bases out, hey, this disc is a base. There's a limit of 2 per space, regardless of faction.
Yep.
And a lot of the games have the circular spaces that say, look, there's only 2. Some of them don't. Some of them do. And you can explain the pieces as you're putting them out. The resource track. How many resources do you have? This is your currency. Boom, really simple. When you're putting out things like control markers, hey, this has control because they have a plurality of pieces versus everyone else combined. That's why they have control. Control is important for you and you. The rest of you don't care about it. And then you'll talk about support and opposition. Or whatever variant of that is in your particular games. Hey, this has support. The support is either neutral or it's passive or it's active, and this is a multiplier of the population value that, guess what, is printed right next to it. You care about that. You care about that. The rest of you don't.
Other than you care about whether they're going to get their victory.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not your victory condition, so don't be as focused on it.
So as I'm setting the board up in front of the players, I'm explaining the pieces. I think generally I like to do that in any game that I can. Some games are too big where it's like, I got to have it set up beforehand. It's just not that. But Coin is pretty decent for that. The next thing you do, at least for me, is everyone's been reading these and we've been chatting about the pieces. So they've kind of looked over it and kind of seen what it is. You're like, this is your play aid, Mr. Cartels. These are your core actions you will mostly be doing. Here's your special actions you'll sometimes be doing, but that are very strong. What we really care about, the very first thing that you should pay attention to is your victory conditions in the bottom right-hand corner.
Every player aid has those listed in the bottom. All 4 players' victory conditions listed.
Yes, and some of them are getting even better where it says like, hey, these people are trying to do this, do that. And so it says, and it has, the new ones are really great too, where it highlights Mr. Green Cartels. In green, the cartels, it says, you have to have more than 10 bases and more than 40 resources. Hey, Mr. Cartels, that's how you win. You need to get money and build bases.
Yep.
You get money by building bases.
And trading drugs.
You are an economy. So you do whatever you can to put out bases, and as many as you can, and you cash in as often and as many as you can. Boom, done.
Protect those bases.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Everyone else is futzing around doing their stuff, fighting a war. You are trying to build drug labs.
Yep.
Mr. AUC, great. You have to have more bases than FARC. So the first thing you need to do is build as many bases as you can. Then what you need to do is to destroy his bases so he has less than you. And I like to teach the victory conditions up front because this should inform absolutely everything that you do in the game.
100%.
That is how you become a proficient coin player, or even like that's how you stop getting lost, is by remembering what your victory conditions are.
And here's an element added on to that. I believe when you play these games for the first time, you really need to understand it's a learning game. Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to win because somebody generally has to win, right? But you should be focused on trying to understand the actions of your faction while also understanding the interaction with your paired faction. There's almost always 2 paired factions in these coin games, right? Cartels and AUC work together. No, I'm sorry. Cartels and FARC, they don't really work together.
No,
They're a bad example.
It's much looser in Andean Abyss.
But like Indians and British are working together in Liberty or Death. Patriots and French are working together. So you need to understand your stuff first, but you also need to understand how you interact with the other faction that you're paired with, because some of your actions will play off of them and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that, but it's also important, don't feel like you're going to win the first time. And even, you really shouldn't even care. It's about the experience and learning the game. I think too many people put stock in, oh, I got to win this. Because a lot of people want to win games.
And I'll be honest, that's what I've really enjoyed about the teach and play events that we've done, where it's like, everyone's new.
Yeah.
Everyone's at a very similar skill level. And so I think the stakes are much lower when no one's trying to shark the game or no one's trying to steamroll it because they've played a whole bunch and they're really good and they want to win.
Yeah.
And so the egos are generally checked at the door.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're like, it's not that serious, don't worry about it. In a lot of learning games, it's often that someone wins by accident, and usually it's because someone makes a mistake because they don't know.
Well, but Alexander, I'm going to be honest. As many times as I've played Andy and Abyss on Rally the Troops, I still fall into a victory sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. The way the cards come out versus what's going on, and when those propaganda cards come out, you can win in a moment. It's just the way it is. It just happens.
But I think that's really the most important thing is, here's your victory conditions. Now, everything we talk about is going to be within the context of, this is how you win, and if anyone else is close or they're in their conditions, this is what they are, and that's how to stop them.
Yeah. This action, blank, will kind of mess FARC up. So if you're competing with FARC and they're getting close to winning, you might want to occasionally do something to stop them. And if you don't, they're going to win.
Yes, but it's
Generally.
like, especially early game, you kind of got to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, you have to work for yourself. If you work to only stop others, you will never win.
Yeah.
You might not lose, but you'll never win.
Yeah.
The next thing you talk about, for me at least, is this is when we kind of reference how the initiative system works.
The sequence of play. Yeah.
Because the sequence of play that follows the event cards then unlocks the actual actions. So I'm a person where, cool, let's look at the event deck. Here's what an event card looks like. At the top, it has your list of initiatives, and they're very random. And so I'll show a few examples of like, hey, you'll go first on one card, and you'll go last on some. That's just what that is. And this is the priority order that you'll do. And then there's invariably almost always two events. One of them favors the insurgent factions, the other one favors the non-insurgent factions, typically. And that will be refined based on which game you're playing, and it's usually easy to point to what that is. And then in conjunction with that, we talk about the actual sequence of play. And this is where we start getting into the nitty-gritty of, okay, you can either, and I invariably start from the bottom and work up, because it's easier to explain it that way. So there's three kind of rows on the sequence of play, and the bottom one is event, I'm pretty sure.
Typically, yeah.
And so, great. If I take the event, I literally do what the card says, and I will do it precisely. Yes, it is the event.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Really simple.
Execute event.
Everyone understands that. I just do what the card says, I do it. Does that align with what your victory conditions are? Yes or no? No, don't do it. But if I take the event, then the next person on the initiative order gets to do the op and special activity.
As many times as they can afford.
Yeah. What does op and special activity look like? So we know what an event looks like. Really simple. Op and special activity is, I do one of these, pick one. Oh, I want to rally a bunch of guys. I want to put them on the board. Great. Then I also have a cool special activity. It says I can do any special activity. Cool. I'll do a bunch of processing or cultivating. And then we can explain that's how we do those things. I still typically don't explain the ins and outs of what these are at that point. But it's about, if I take the event, I unlock everything for the next person. Or I can do absolutely everything. But what that does is it unlocks for the next person the event, so they can do whatever the event is. If that's bad, that's not good for me. Or they get a limited op. And so then I can explain what a lim op is. A lim op is, from this menu, one thing, one time.
It sucks.
And so that's when you're
Gotta
like,
be honest.
Now we're starting to present the players with choices. If I go whole hog and I know the event sucks for the person who's next, I'm kind of screwing them over and they're going to get limmarked. And so now I'm putting that thinking in their brain of like, this is how to start trying to assess some of this stuff. And then we go up to the top row, which is op only. So this is kind of the most restrictive. If I choose to do one of these as many times as I want, I don't do any of the cool extra stuff. But it forces the next player into lim op, which really sucks. And so I do it from bottom to top, because starting with the really restrictive stuff and working our way bigger feels less intuitive than starting with the stuff that's kind of obvious. Hey, do a card and do all of the stuff, and having the thinking contract and shrink of what I want to inflict on my enemies is less important necessarily than what I want to do big picture. That's the way that I kind of go through that process. I don't know if that resonates, but that's kind of how I go about that. Because I think if you start with like, this, you can only do a little, but it really screws them over. Or you can do a little bit more, you can do a little bit more. I don't know. I like thinking about it the other way, because I think doing the big stuff is often much more important.
What I would say, though, is once you become comfortable with that sequence of play and your faction and how the other factions work, it is very important to assess, I'll go back to a sports analogy. Time and score. How much time's left in the game and what's the score? The same thing equates to a coin game. Where are we at in the propaganda round? What propaganda round are we in? The first, the second, the third, or the last, or however many there are. Some only have 2 or 3, depending on the scenario. But assess then where you are in the game versus where you are or where others are in relation to their victory conditions.
Yeah.
And then that should determine a lot of times what you do end up taking on that sequence of play.
Yeah, how can I affect you by screwing you over with a lim up, or forcing you to pass onto a card that's less good, or something like that?
But playing that sequence of play is a part of the game.
Oh, very much so.
Understanding it, being able to use it to your benefit, and then somewhat to the detriment of your opponents. You're very good at that. I'm pretty good at that. I hate doing it sometimes because it just feels
mean-spirited.
Mean-spirited.
It is.
But it's the way the game is. When you know someone, if they have a full op and special activity and they can do everything that they want, they're going to get so far ahead that they might win. You need to decide, okay, I'm just going to do an op only. I can do that in any number of spaces, but that's all I can do. I got to be prudent, right? But that will come with time, with experience, with plays, and will come with time, experience, and plays in each one of the volumes.
And it's something that I introduced like probably halfway through the first propaganda round. Because typically when I'm playing or teaching these games, I'm like, do as much as you can do. And then about halfway through, we kind of reassess the board, and it's like, okay, he's close to a winning condition, so is he. So do you want to now start reining yourself in to rein them in, and kind of open that up later, because I think up front that's a lot to consider. But once we've kind of talked about the sequence of play, it is at that point that I will go through each player individually and talk about what mostly their ops do, because a lot of them are similar, right? They all have a train or a rally. Put guys on the board. Okay, how do I put guys on the board? You put guys on the board by doing X, Y, and Z. You can do it in locations that look like this. And so you're like, I point to the board. This one, this one, this one. This is where you can do it. This is why you care about control. This is why you care about opposition, because you can only rally where there's opposition.
Or where you control.
Yeah, so like, control lots of areas and you can keep doing it. Opposition lots of areas to enable you to keep that cycle going. That's part of the reason you care about that. How do I move guys? What does movement look like? March. I can march guys around. Great. How do I do that? We can talk about marching. Attacking. Attacking is pretty self-explanatory. You're trying to defeat other people's pieces.
Remove their pieces.
What does that look like? I flip some guys over, I might roll a die, or I might just kill them.
Automatically,
Or I might do terror, and terror flips my guys over, and it changes typically opposition and support. wait, why did I care about support and opposition? Oh, right. I cared about it because I can only rally in certain spaces that have those things.
Or my victory condition is opposition related.
And so you're tying the ops for each player to their specific contexts, whether that's victory conditions or capacity to rally and things like that. Once we've done that, we talk about, here's the special bits. You're not going to get to do a lot of these in the game, but when you do, they're extremely important. This one allows you to put extra bases out. Processing allows you to put out your, what are they called?
Your money.
The
I can't remember what they're called.
Shipments is what they're called, right? What does a shipment do? Well, very loosely, it gives you
money.
Lots of money, or it gets you a free limb up.
Yeah.
Those are both very good, and they're a great bargaining chip to use with people.
You can trade with people.
Or you can bribe. Bribing's very expensive. Remember, money's your victory point.
Very powerful.
But extremely powerful, and can keep you in a game or can win you a game.
Just anecdotally, I had a cartels faction that had over 65 resources the other day. I bribed the hell out of people. But I was smart about it, right? When I bribed a FARC base away, I made sure to bribe an AUC base away because I didn't want to give either one of them the...
Oh yeah, you can't give them the lead.
But boy, a bribe's so fun. Because you can do 3 spots. It costs 3 resources
It's
per
expensive
spot.
to sell.
So that's a lot. But if you have a lot of resources, it can be very, very powerful. Or you can negotiate and say, you know what? I won't negotiate, or I won't, bribe here if you do
Leave
this,
me
or
alone
don't
over
do this,
here,
or
or-
don't touch this base, or that's part of the game that I think comes only with multiple plays.
Yeah, so it's especially...
Sorry, I derailed
No, you're not wrong. The table talk stuff is really difficult with new players.
Because they don't know what they want, or what they need, or what they can trade, or how it affects them.
Or they don't know the value of
Yep.
things. And that's, you can
100%.
only get that by playing the game a couple times.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the next step is going through the card with each of the different players, and hopefully everyone's listening.
Yeah, and I try not to go so in depth that I kind of want them to figure it out, but I will,
Yeah.
like you said, the generalities of put guys out, train,
Put guys out,
Train.
moving guys, attacking,
attack, blah, blah, blah.
terroring.
Yeah.
Those are really important. And it's these little special bits on the ops. It's like when you get to do the ops, that's the really cool stuff.
Yeah.
This allows you to break typical rules, and if you get the opportunity to do them, they're there for a reason.
Yeah, they're good. The special activities.
And the reality is once we've started doing that, I'm a person where it's like, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
I've briefly gone through everything here, and we will go, okay, who's the first on the initiative? What do you want to do? And if it's something like Andy and Abyss that I'm teaching, that I know very well, the opening moves for a lot of the players is rallying.
Or train.
Yeah, it's putting guys out. So my familiarity with the game helps me in teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, government's going first. All right, government, here's your problem. You have all these troops off map, and you've got all this money. How much of it do you want to spend to put the troops onto the map? Oh, by the way, Medellin is extremely risky right now because you need to build support there to stop the FARC from rallying in it. So then I get to explain all of those things, and I'll leave them the freedom of putting guys out where they want and how much to spend, but I'm not hesitant of saying like, hey, when I play this, I go real hard as the government.
Yeah.
I will spend almost every drop of money that I have to put everyone out. Or I'll put out like a ton of guys, and if I'm leaving somewhere a bit bare, I'll call that out. And I'm like, this is a risk. Someone could move in there and do something, but you will save more money, which allows you more freedom to do stuff for the rest of the turn.
Yeah.
If it's FARC, it's like, okay, FARC, what are your victory conditions? It's bases, and it is opposition. Okay, you have no bases on the board, build bases. Rally as much as you can, and then maybe you extort. What does extort look like? What does it do?
Getting more resources.
And so I'll extort with them, and you're like, look, I built all those guys, and then I extorted and got all my money back.
Yep. Now they're vulnerable, though.
Yeah.
Got to remember the
but early game,
airlift. I know. I know.
And so then it's like,
how many times have I extorted like hog wild, and I realize, now one airlift over there, they can get me then next round, and it's like, I got to be careful.
Yeah, then I got to rally. But
got to be careful.
But once you start getting into the play, I'm always showing the consequences of the things. You're like, cool, look, and I now point to every one of the other players. I'm like, this dirty FARC play just put out all these guys for free. Just remember that. That's the kind of power that they have if they can keep getting away with it. How are you going to stop them getting away with it? AUC, okay, I want to build bases as well. You don't have as much money. You don't have as many pieces. You simply can't put them out on the board. Okay, where's the nexus of my power? Okay, I'm going to build some here, I'm going to build some here. Okay, you can also extort, but you can only extort where you have the most places. So maybe you put out a couple guys for free out in the forests. Why would you do that? Well, maybe it's the threat that tilts someone in doing something over here that didn't cost you anything. Maybe you do that to prevent FARC from doing the same thing, where they could put out guys for free and then march them later on. Explaining those, starting to get into the knock-on consequences of things. Cartels, you got to build bases. You have no guys on the board.
Yeah.
Put guys on the board.
And you need 2 guys to then remove and put a base out.
And
so
early
you
game,
plan.
Cartel sucks.
No,
it's so slow.
It's long game.
And it's so expensive. And that's invariably what I'll say is I'm like, government,
you're going to win in
long
the last...
game. Cartels, long game.
Yeah.
AUC, mid-game, FARC, early game, mid-game.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things that you kind of have to be able to convey to your players such that they can at least grasp some of it. Yeah. Because some of it might be beyond them, especially in that first turn or two as they're kind of figuring it out.
Yep.
But the longer the game goes on, the more they're going to have figured out how all of their different actions kind of work together.
Yeah.
And as I'm teaching, especially if I'm not playing, I'll do it if I'm playing as well, but someone takes an action, FARC rallied a bunch of guys. I'm like, hey, look, he rallied a bunch of guys. What does that mean for you and you? And then you say, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, maybe just like throw in this as well because you didn't think about it because you didn't know. Okay, what does that mean for you and you? And explaining the consequences of everyone else's actions at the table, I think helps to get those wheels moving a little bit earlier. Because there is a lot of interplay and a lot of connectivity in these games.
Yeah.
A lot of interaction, and everything has, an equal and opposite style reaction. But you can only know that if someone tells you. If no one's telling you that, it's very slow to learn that.
One other thing I try to help people, particularly when they're playing the insurgent factions, because I think those are some of the more difficult ones because they are a nuanced play.
Yeah.
I always remind them, you cannot do something unless you're in an area, right? You can't affect Medellin unless you have a piece in there. So what are you going to do to get a piece in there? How are you going to get in there? You can't rally there because they got support. What can you do? You can march in there. You can look for an event that allows you to put people in there. I try to help them, remind them that you have to have presence in a place to affect the outcome of that area. And I think a lot of times that's hard for players to grasp.
Yeah.
Because they see so many places and it's like, you got to get in these places. These are the important ones.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that is depending on which of the games that you're playing, there's always that one thing that you need to be concerned about. And so I will always try to highlight that. So in something like Cuba Libre, those industrial centers, if you ignore those, that's really bad. You should not be ignoring those.
It's a huge source of...
In Fire in the Lake, the road networks and the sabotage, if you don't go and put up roadblocks and car bombs on all of those roads, we're going to get flagged.
As the VC,
as the VC, and even as the NVA. You will get steamrolled because you'll just allow the coalition forces to just roll up and down and do whatever they want.
And get all the money that they need.
And get a ton of extra money. And so each one of these games has something like that often will fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
That it's important to kind of remember, hey, this is something to consider. You know, it might not be the most primary thing you should be thinking about, but it is a way to really turn the screws on someone if you're in a position to be able to do so.
Well, and I think along those same lines, and we just haven't gotten to it necessarily yet, is the propaganda round is one of the more important parts of the game. Very hard to teach someone who's never played the game the effects of something that's going to happen in 8 to 10 cards.
Yes.
So typically what I like to do is once we've explained everything and reminded them, this is how you're going to win, this is how you're going to do this, blah, 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 let them go a couple of turns. Then I try to stop them and I say, okay, let's real quick, because we're about 5 cards away from what's called the propaganda round or the coup round or the interim.
Whatever
it's called. But typically in the propaganda round, you're going to determine victory. If someone has their victory conditions, they're going to win and the game's going to be over. You're going to get your resources. You're going to be able to effectuate with those resources the level of support and or opposition. And that's all listed on this handy-dandy sequence of play and propaganda round. And I always like to make sure these are readily apparent and visible. That's why you said get them out.
Yeah, have them out.
Because players have got to be able to understand, okay, this is how I get money. Because if you don't have money in coin, you're not going to be able to do much. So you got to understand, how am I going to get more money? It's building bases, or it's doing this, or...
And that's exactly how I do it as well. Like, let's everyone take a turn or two. We'll get through 4 or 5 cards, and then it's like, yo, we got this coming up in a bit. I will loosely talk about, we're going to do victory, we'll sabotage, we'll get money, and then you can affect some support and stuff, and we'll end up having to move some pieces around.
Yeah.
And then it's money. I talk about the resources. I kind of gloss over the rest of it because it's like it's some end of round bookkeeping. Some of it's important, and we'll get there because most of the time, even if you told them,
you're not winning the first.
Yeah, and like if I am here explaining the redeploy stuff, you're gonna have forgotten that in 4 cards time anyway. It's almost not worth it. But the money is okay. You will get money in about 5 cards time from X. It's the number of bases that you have. That's it.
The number of shipments you have.
So look at how much money you've got and how many bases you've got and build more bases. You know, you'll get the shipments plus 3 times your bases. How many bases do you have? Oh, you only have 7? You could be doing better than that. Yeah. Build more bases. Put out more shipments. Oh, you get it from, you know, all of the roads. I don't know what they call it anymore.
Lines of communication.
Yeah, the LOCs, and you don't get any aid in turn 1, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, AUC, you get it for your bases. That's not very much. So, you know, just bear that in mind.
Yeah.
If you're the AUC, by the way, if you can get any money from events, you should do it.
Yeah. We need to also talk about event cards.
Yes.
Briefly.
Yeah, but that's typically what I do is I talk about specifically the money, and then I kind of say most of the rest of it isn't as important. You know, the government troops having to go back to a base or a city.
That can be important.
Can be important. Usually that early on they're not doing it. Or if they specifically make a move like that, I will say, hey, just so you know, they're going to have to go back. And most of the time they don't care, or it's like, you know, if you get enough guys, you could build a base and they'll stay.
Yep.
But yeah, I do that the same way, like about, you know, a few cards into the game, let's do that.
Let them try some things and then pull that out.
And because I'll usually have let them play around with the events as well as part of that. Because I think that's also a decent time. Once we've really started kind of getting into it, is to then explain the event cards. Because the event cards are very, very cool and are really one of my favorite parts about a coin game, but they can be fool's gold.
Well, new players tend to want to take every event.
And it is, and being able to, once again, we're back to this, assess the value of an event as a new player, almost impossible.
Yeah.
And so I will very clearly, typically I'm like reading the event cards out loud for everyone, and I will be like, you go first on this event, and I'll say, this is no good. Or like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Or, this, like, probably you wouldn't bother with this. Like, I will give full-blown strategy advice with the event cards because I want to get my players assessing them decently. And you're like, hey, this one says, put out a base and a guy in Venezuela or whatever. And you're like, think about how many turns and how many resources that is.
Yeah.
And you get to do that for free, off map where you normally couldn't go. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I feel like with event cards, to me, there's the two big whammies. Something where I can do something I'm trying to do anyway, like build bases or train for free, or in more spaces than I normally could, or a series of actions that would normally take me 2 whole turns, like a sweep and an assault.
Yeah, if you can ever do that. Amazing.
There are cards that will allow you to move in and sweep, turn over underground guerrillas, and then that same card, it will allow you to assault. So you need to look for those. Those are events I will almost always take, depending on the situation, the time, what's going on.
Yeah,
time and score.
as long as there's guys to do it with
Right.
or against.
But I think those, you're really looking for a super value on what you are normally going to do anyway. I like to remind players there are 8 to 10 cards generally in each interim period, right? Sometimes there's more, depending on
Yeah, it's
the game. And
anywhere
it could be
from
15 or 12.
depending on how early. Yeah.
But you need to understand you're going to have 4 to 5 turns between every interim card. 4 to 5 turns where you can do 4 or 5 things. That's not a lot. Each time you take a card as an event, that's one less thing that you're ultimately doing. And I try to remind them of that to teach them the value of maximization of opportunity and opportunity cost of taking an event versus what you could have done, or that super value concept. Those to me are the 3 concepts of the event cards that people need to understand.
And the other one of those, especially for government players, is capabilities.
Yes, that are long-term, the whole game.
If a capability comes up early game,
Get it.
almost regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
In Indian Abyss, there's a couple exceptions to that, but
And a capability is nothing more than a special ability that enhances something you're already doing and makes it more powerful.
Yeah.
Over the course of the game, every time you take that.
yeah, and some of them it's like it makes it really cheap, or it makes it really like double the power,
Yep.
or it does, and you're like, this is,
You
will
can't
be
afford to pass it up.
exponentially better the earlier it is in the game.
Yeah.
So that's also, and I think most coin games have capabilities in
almost all
some
of them
form
do.
or another, but that's the other part of it. And I think the other thing I like to explain is the reality of coin is, and I think I heard this from Mark Herman. I think what he says is, your coin plan should be, what can I do with 3 lim ops? If you get 3 lim ops in a row, what's your plan? Mm-hmm. Because that's worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's like you're being choked to death.
But like sometimes that happens.
It happens.
To you.
Yep.
But if that's your worst case scenario plan, at least you have that plan. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think a lot of players are thinking like 1 turn ahead.
Yeah.
And you should be thinking 3 turns ahead.
Yeah.
And if you can do that and you can think that way, you'll outpace a lot of the new players at the table as well.
Yeah.
But if a good chunk of the events are shiny objects that are there to distract magpies. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be a magpie in coin. And if you were to play a coin game and never take an event, you'll probably do pretty well.
Yeah, you probably will be.
That's the reality.
Yep.
It's
and vice versa. If you took every single event, my guess is you are losing.
you will either you will never win.
Yeah, you will never win, but you're losing.
And so being able to assess those and see which ones are value, that's something that I'm very proactive at, where I'm like, hey, this does what you're trying to do a little bit better, or it's only in one spot and maybe you could do it here with some money.
Yeah.
Helping them to come to grips with what's the value or not. Very upfront, I'll be very objective about it. I'm like, yes, no, don't do it,
Yep.
that kind of thing. And I think that helps people to not get distracted by them and focus on like, hey, just like do your stuff. They gave you this huge play aid card and they didn't give you this so you could ignore it and just do the events.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and my final piece of advice for teaching a coin game is make it fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun system. It's a fun game. It's an interesting game. Enjoy it. Have fun. Remind people that it's a game. I think sometimes people, and I've seen it even at our coin teaching events, some people are so preoccupied with winning that they're missing the point of the game.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I like to win it as much as everybody else, but I also want to have a good experience with the game. And I think that these games are very interesting. They lead to a lot of interaction and discussion, and that should be encouraged. And I would remind players that they need to better understand the value of certain things so that they can negotiate, because every coin game is made better by negotiation.
Yeah.
Period.
I'm also, I love doing that coin teach and play event because I like to sit there and GM the game. And what I will do is I will just like smack talk everyone at
Sure.
the table. So, you know, when the cartels are like doing stuff, I will just go over to the government player and be like, are you going to let these dirty drug peddling rats get away with that? And we will have a good laugh about it. Or like the Fargaders will be like, those disgusting communist pig dogs, you going to let them get away with that? And then you're like, you impotent AUC, go and take them out.
Yeah.
It's starting to get some of that silly rivalry going, but it helps to kind of keep people invested in what other people are doing as well. And it engenders a fun atmosphere.
I always remind people, though, with the smack talking and the intimidation and the
I do it
mocking,
jokingly.
No, you do it mockingly or jokingly, but it also has to be done with some purpose. Because I've told players a lot of times, man, you can keep talking, but until you offer me something, I ain't doing nothing that you want done. Unless it benefits me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had that discussion with Here I Stand, I think, at Buckeye Game Fest. I'm like, dude, you can make fun of me all day. I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing what you want me to do
It'll
unless
be like
you
getting
give me
blood
something.
from a stone.
Well, but understand, it's a give and take.
Yeah.
You gotta give. More often than not, you give when you're going to get more, but sometimes you need to give and get less to get what you really want or need. That 3 limb up ahead concept, I think, is a very key point of the game as well. Understand you've got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You can't just go into the game and, oh, look at this, I'm going to do this. Oh, look at this, I'm going to do this. You can't pull the lever. I said this at the beginning. Pull the lever without understanding what that actually does.
Yeah, or like you'll do that for a few cards of futzing around trying to learn
it.
But you will invariably lose to someone who does it.
Yeah.
So like get into that mindset of trying to think, you know, what am I going to do with 3 turns? I'm going to rally, I'm going to march, and then I'm going to terror.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to do.
Because that gets me a base that improves it moves me into position to get opposition, which that also helps me, right? Or gives me support.
Or it hurts everyone else.
And you've got to have that, because ultimately you do things to make your victory conditions come closer.
Yeah.
So I think with Coin, I love Coin.
Oh, yeah.
We've played all 12 volumes plus the British Way, which is frickin' amazing, by the way. We have also explored and played multiple times Vijayanagar and A Jest of Robin Hood, which is Coin adjacent.
Yeah, that's the Irregular Conflict series.
I will play Coin at any time, and I will have a good time all the time.
Yeah.
It's a fun, interesting system. If you can't see that or don't see it, give it an opportunity. I think that you will understand it's not random. It is, in fact, planned and programmed, and you do this and this happens and this helps you and this hurt. Those all are real things. I've heard a lot of people say, well, you don't do anything that does anything. No, you
they're like, I'm doing the same cycle again and again and again.
You don't know what you're doing.
Like,
and yeah, you're going to do that a couple times, but then be ready to do what you really need to do. I don't know. I'll play Coin at any time. I love them. We have a plan ultimately next year, I think, to try to play all at that time.
The year of Coin.
Probably 14 volumes, hopefully, because I love them. I want to revisit them, and I very much love every single one of them.
Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful.
I hope so.
Some of that stuff is more generic advice, like if you're teaching a game, start with the victory conditions, right?
Yeah.
You can parlay that, but hopefully this helps to some just like advice on teaching a coin game, getting new players together. It's a game. It's a board game. It's just not that serious. Like
Yeah.
you just start playing it and
If you make mistakes,
figure
who
it
cares?
out.
You'll figure it out. How many
Yeah.
times have we made mistakes?
Yeah,
All
right.
the time.
And so far, the coin police haven't showed up.
Nope, they haven't kicked our door in.
You know, it's not the end of the world.
Maybe they're coming now. I don't
Coin
know.
is absolutely wonderful as a series. I love it. One of my favorite war game series, period, out there. There's a ton of them.
Yep.
Pick a theme you like. That's going to carry you. Get to the playing.
They're all so good and so unique and interesting.
There's
I just love them.
so many of them.
Yeah, and we don't even have half of them here.
No, they're like all on the shelves still.
Yeah.
There's a ton out there. But appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.